Everybody had Kirby Smart at 1. So, Jake, I'll let you lead it off and take it away.
Yeah, I don't think much of this list is surprising. Maybe number 5 a little bit, and I had to back it up. I don't have a ton of stats on all of these guys, but I have it on Gundy because I feel like I have to support this one for being a top 5 in college football right now. I mean, to have a guy that's as tenured as Gundy is pretty incredible, especially in this day and age where I don't know if you guys remember when he wore that political shirt and him and Chuba Hubbard had to take a picture together. And
2020.
last year we thought that I definitely thought like Oklahoma State was going to go into the ground, especially how they started. And even before the year, I just thought with no NIL support, you didn't really hit the portal too much. I thought Gundy wasn't going to be able to evolve. And he's proven me wrong so far. And they bring back a lot of guys next year where I don't think like, why wouldn't they be able to win 8 or 9 games again? He's 166 and 79 in his total career at Oklahoma State. It's the only place he's had a head job. I would say he's still an elite play caller. Like he gets the most out of all of his quarterbacks. Let me list off his quarterbacks that he won 10 games or even 9 games with. Alan Bowman. What's his nuts for the Steelers? For the backup
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. Thank you. And then, God, what am I thinking of 2011? Brandon Weeden. Yes,
Dog.
Weeden. And then look at Spencer Sanders. Spencer Sanders went on to Ole Miss and didn't get the starting job there. So 4 guys that are either poor with NFL careers or didn't have one at all, and he still maximized their potential. He's a 3-time coach of the year in the Big 12. He was in Eddie Robinson coach of the year in 2011. 18 straight winning seasons. That's incredible. 8 10-win seasons. The one disappointment I think you could mark on him, he's only got 1 conference title, but that was also in a South division with Texas and Oklahoma. Who knows what he could accomplish in the new Big 12. He's got 28 wins over top 25 teams in the playoff era. So that's why I got him at number 5. He continues to be strong, and I don't see Oklahoma State really slowing down as long as he's there. Dan Lanning, plain and simple, I think he's the best, youngest coach in college football. He's an elite recruiter. I think he's an excellent motivator, and I don't see why he won't be in playoff contention with a 12-team playoff every single year. I have this team making a playoff easily next year. I think they're one of my top 4 teams in college football. Kalen DeBoer, out of all this list, I think he's the best play caller in college football. He's got to be in there. Offense is a huge piece in the modern day of college football. He's the best one that calls plays. And I think for him to be regarded by Nick Saban, I don't know, for everything that came out on him, I think that really speaks on how high he is. Brian Kelly, I think he's in your guys' top 5. Not sure where he ranks, but I don't think he gets enough credit. He's 165 and 68 in his career FBS record. He made 4 playoff or national title appearances at Notre Dame. I don't think people understand how hard that is, especially in modern day and in recruiting at Notre Dame. He won a divisional title at LSU in his first year. And I think Josh Pate said it last week. If LSU had even a relevant defense this year, just I would say competent's a better word, they would be probably in the national championship, if not a national champion. That's how good that offense was this year.
Yeah, I put him in the playoff, but I thought they were going to have one. But, coach's kids.
I had him in there too.
Up.
Let's see what he can do with the new staff this year. Maybe he can take them to that playoff. And then last, Kirby Smart, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's got to back him up here.
Yeah. I just like Kalen DeBoer being the best play caller.
I think right now
there's a guy on this list that's not on this list. It's pretty damn good at it. You know who I'm thinking of without saying it?
No, I don't know. I am trying to think.
Okay. No, hey,
is he going to be on your list?
Next list? Yeah, guarantee. But I'm pretty sure it's on the next list too, which I'm pretty sure is Reese, right? I
have no idea what order this is going in.
Let's talk on this Gundy thing for a second. Because
whoa.
What?
Give me a chance, because I got Gundy on there as well. Spoiler alert.
But I didn't want to I wanted to rebuttal, then you were gonna have your opinion on the back end on your side. So I was just gonna say, I see what you're saying, and you obviously were prepared to defend it. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think what you're saying is it's a program that's not a perennial powerhouse, but it's become a perennial winner.
I also didn't want to
they win a lot of football games.
No, 100%. I didn't want to put all national title contending coaches in there. I wanted to put There are jobs
He's a
that are
little
hard to
different.
win at, and there are jobs that squeeze everything that they can get out of
Yeah,
that job. And I
absolutely.
really think Mike Gundy is one of those guys. Like, I don't think Oklahoma State has to be a national championship contender. And to be honest, he's one bad night in Ames from being probably a national championship coach in 2011. So that's even the crazy thing to think about.
You don't just
Yeah,
roll into Ames, Iowa thinking you're going to win.
Some would say.
So-
Some would say.
Some would. Depends on the year. Depends on the year. To the next one here. It is Reese.
All right, Reese,
Yep.
take us through it.
All right, so Schaefer mentioned number one, obviously, that we don't need to talk about that guy. Number two, Ryan Day. You're going to look at what this guy did in the portal last year, and people forget this is a guy who was a 50-yard field goal away a couple of years ago from taking down that Georgia team and then going to a national championship and probably handling a TCU team. So that's another coach who very well is able to win a national championship, I believe, in the next 3 or 4 years. Shit, even this year, we'll see what they can do with the guys they bringing in. And number three, Kalen DeBoer, you're looking at a guy, we talked about him when he came down, when he's 104 and like 12 in his collegiate career as a head coach. And he's doing that stuff. He just did that with a Washington team where they're not a perennial powerhouse in the Pac-12. He brought guys in, made it his own team. And now you're giving this guy all the power and resources at the University of Alabama. There's no way that university is going to go anywhere. That guy's bringing his coordinator with him. The guy just knows how to win. It's going to make it his brand of football. And like Shaver just mentioned too, if you're getting the tap on the shoulder from Nick Saban, like, hey, this is the guy we should get, that guy's probably a pretty good football coach. So I got him at number three. And then number four, Sarkisian. I got him at four just because I think they're going to be a team that they're going to be relevant for the next number of years, because with the Saban being gone, Texas gets elevated, I believe, and all the boosters and numbers they got. He's also bringing in players. He's doing very well in the portal. Getting that fan base back to a college football playoff, I think, is huge for them. And just to see what he has kind of progressed as a coach from the past when he was at USC, had the struggles. The first couple of years at Texas wasn't really what they were hoping to be. But I mean, you look at what he did this year and going into the University of Alabama and beating Nick Saban on his home turf. You got to be a pretty damn good football coach to do that. And then number five, I got Dabo. I thought this would be kind of an interesting one. I don't know if anybody was going to have him just because of the irrelevancy, I would say, Clemson seems to have lately. But here, I'm going to come with some facts here, Schaefer.
All right.
In his 16 years, he's 170-43, two-time national champion. And who did he beat those 2 times he went? Nick Saban. Lost to him twice as well. 8-time ACC champ, 3-time Bear Bryant Coach of the Year, 12 straight 10-win seasons. This last season was his first season without 10 wins since 2010 or 11, I believe. And then from 15 to 20, he finished within the top 5 rankings at the end of the year. The guy has not adapted to the portal, but he is still a coach that was rivaling Nick Saban in Alabama for about a 6-year window. DJU didn't really pan out, but I mean, you still had Deshaun Watson, bad guy, and Trevor Lawrence. You're getting guys like ETN. You're getting in that they had a solid defense. You had Venables, who is now a solid coach at the University of Oklahoma. So he had winners around him, and he made that university what it is today. He's leaving it. I mean, if he's however soon he's gone, that university is better today than what it was when he started off there.
You don't have to argue with me. You don't have to argue with me on that one. I completely agree.
Well, I'm just this is just a point I'm adding on at the end.
Okay, gotcha. I'm just saying the trajectory of where he's heading or he's taking this program is more so why I don't have him in my top 5.
I wanted to put him at 4 over 5, but like that was kind of the reason why too, is like the trajectory is like they're not in the right direction right now. But I think still to say this dude isn't a top 5 coach in NCAA right now, like with the 2 national champions over the greatest coach in college football history. Who knows if this guy's going to adapt or not, but he was up there for 6 years. It was always Clemson. It was Clemson and Alabama in the national title for 6 years. Like, who's going to win it? It's going to be these 2 teams at the end of the year. Who's going to win? And you find a way to go 50-50 against the greatest coach of all time. The guy's a good coach.
I don't think there's a huge argument around Dabo Swinney being a good coach. I also have him on my list. Spoiler there as well. JP, flip us to the next one. Who's taking us through their top 5 coaches next? It's me. Okay.
Whoa.
Since nobody's done it yet, let me just do the Kirby Smart little excerpt here. Kirby Smart is 94-16 as a head coach with 6 SEC championships, 2 national championships. He's 9-2 in bowl games, 5-1 in the college football playoff, 3-time SEC Coach of the Year winner, and 1 Broyles nominee and that was in 2009 when he was at Bama as a defensive coordinator. This guy's legit. He's where he needs to be. Like we said, we all had number 1, but we had to list those accolades off. So I have Gundy at 2, and I saw the eyebrow raise from Jake down under. Listen, man, this guy is a through and through winner. This guy has built teams, and I don't think we're mentioning the part that he's doing this at a school that I don't know if you can say forever, but for a majority of their existence has been Little Bro. Because if you're getting an offer from Oklahoma State, you're probably getting an offer from Oklahoma. And if not, you're doing it with guys that weren't good enough to go to Oklahoma. It's much tougher to do things like that. Jake and JP, you can probably somewhat agree. It's tough when you have competitive schools within the state, when recruiting wise, developmental wise, to get those kids, it takes a lot as a head coach. He's got his moments. He's had the 2020, Jake, you mentioned the political stuff, the 2007 I'm a Man speech. We'll go down in history. Some of the accolades you didn't list off: 3-time Big 12 Coach of the Year. He was inducted to the Oklahoma State Hall of Fame. He was there from 1990 to 1995 as an assistant. Then he left, came back in 01, been there ever since. 1 conference title, that is his downfall, but 8, 10+ win seasons, 12, 9+ win seasons. I mean, he's just a winner through and through, and he's done it with players that are tough to get. He's Little Bro. He was 4-12 against Oklahoma within his first years, and then he rattled off like 6 straight wins in the modern era of college football against a blue blood powerhouse in Oklahoma. So I love Mike Gundy. I think he's one of the greatest of all time, and he's just a winner through and through. Dan Lanning, same exact reasons as Jake. Best young coach in college football. I love listening to him speak. I love how much pride he has for the University of Oregon. I really do think they'll be around a long time. And he has this Oregon Ducks team ready to go in the Big Ten. Like that is 100% a contender to win the Big Ten next year with Ohio State and Michigan and what they've done over the past few years. So love Dan Lanning. Ryan Day, this is going to be a little bit of clickbait for those Ohio State fans. They're not too high on him, but this, at most programs, this career that he's put together in his short time, they might be building statue plans for this guy if he were to do that anywhere else. The whole started on third base thing, I can hear that argument. I can. But 2 Big Ten championships, 3 Big Ten East championships, which basically wins you the Big Ten, 1 Big Ten Coach of the Year. And like I said, those statue plans, he's 56-8, man. He's 56-8, and they kind of want his head. Now, there's other coaches in the past that can't win the big one. They've worked out if you stay with them. So I think if they stay with Ryan Day, he's still getting the recruits. They're still wide receiver U. He's still sending guys to the NFL that are starting as rookies. He's a good head coach overall. Dabo, Reese nailed it on the head. He's been there since 2009. 8 ACC championships is insane. 2 national championships at a school that was kind of, I don't want to say dead in the water, but further down than they are now, obviously. 6-4 in the college football playoff. One of the few coaches with a winning record there. 12-8 in bowl games, and a lot of those bowl losses came towards the beginning of his career. He's just gotten better as they've gone on. Now, I do think you have to mention he has 8 different Coach of the Year awards. Obviously, you got the Bear Bryant, Eddie Robinson, ACC Coach of the Year awards. I think he has 3 or 4 of those. I didn't write that one down, but 8 different Coach of the Year awards. These are my top 5 active head coaches, and I think Kirby is obviously the best, as we all do. But that's my list. I want to hear it. I know we're gonna have some Gundy hate here.
But I just got a thing. I just had a thought. If you guys would just blind resume Mike Gundy and Kirk Ferentz, do you think you could tell the difference between the two?
The answer is fuck no.
Do you think you can tell the difference between Mike Gundy? Like if you blind resumed,
If he was pretty quick to defend there.
He's got
records,
a better winning percentage.
How long they've coached. Like
I will say,
players
Cam
are
made a
recruiting,
good point.
how they finish the
know-
year. Like I don't think you can tell the difference between the two.
No, I agree, Reese. But the difference between one or the other that I would argue, and I think Cam made a good point, is that Oklahoma State, when he took over, they weren't very good. And Granted, yeah, Ferentz took it over after the debacle of the Fry era, but it was still like the 80s and 90s. Like Iowa football was a perennial power under Hayden Fry, whereas I feel like Gundy kind of brought up Oklahoma State to where they are today because of solely him. But that's I don't know if that's even an
No,
argument.
I
we should
agree.
be
He's
having.
a great coach because of you being able to recruit. Like when Parky said you are the little brother compared to Oklahoma, but like I just kind of had that thought in my head. Like if you would blind resume those two, I feel like I'd have a hard time distinguishing between the two.
Sounds like a graphic
Championship
somebody needs to make.
wise, I would say, yeah, that can happen. But championship wise, I would say yes, they're dead on. I think you nailed it, Reese. But it's the overall being the little brother, still competing,
Yeah.
and I don't know, man. JP is going to take this with a ton of salt, but those teams that were good at Oklahoma State felt more like a threat than the 10-win teams that Kirk Ferentz has had at Iowa on the national scheme of things.
Offensively, yeah, because they're just more. I mean, everybody respects offense. Like if you're more,
Yeah,
that
if we're
brand
playing
of
that
football,
fucking
not-
game. If we're playing that fucking game, it's just because it's a little prettier. I mean, like they
that's what
did it
I'm
with
saying.
offense, no
It's
defense,
more
you do it
appealing
with
to
all
the eye.
defense. Yeah,
It's more appealing to the college
Ferentz's best
football
teams.
fan.
Ferentz's best teams in like the Brad Banks team in 2002, right, was nationally recognized. Like they legitimately were a game away from playing for a national title. And then like you go into 15 or 16, they win that, they're in a college football playoff. That's more than Gundy would have. I mean, again, I know that it didn't happen because he was a play away as well, but like they both have 8-10 win seasons. They both have 1 or 2 conference titles. Ferentz's winning percentage, I think, is a little lower, if off the top of my head, than maybe Gundy's is. But like the little brother thing doesn't matter that much because we're not vying for 4 or 5-star talent in this state. We're trying to get 2s and 3s and keeping kids home. So like, and like obviously it's more, if you're going off that, then what Campbell's done is a bigger deal than anything because that program, talk about in the shits, and now is a favorite for the future of the Big 12, like for the next 5 years, right? So I don't know. I think
So
if you stacked them on
basically,
paper, you would see
the
it
end of
differently.
the end of this argument goes down to way to go, Jake. You killed our only hope that they would have had a national championship appearance in
Yeah.
2011 when Iowa State beats them. So
Pretty
way to go,
much.
Jake. You killed our own
Steal
dream.
James,
I
the
will
quarterback.
say-
Then
And
No,
Baylor,
Baylor's
you
Barnett.
can't score from the 1-yard line 7
Damn, I
times.
was
You don't
close,
deserve to
dude.
go play for a college football
Yeah.
title.
Oh
That
God,
was
yeah,
ridiculous.
that
That
stretch.
ugly.
But then
I will
like,
say-
Pete,
That's
this
Oklahoma
year-
State fandom. That's what
Yes.
it is. It's heartbreak.
The one comparison I will say Gundy and Ferentz have is that, especially nowadays, their fan bases say at least 4 or 5 times a year that they both need to retire or just give up coaching college football.
Yeah.
So
That's true as well. That is
Just
true as well.
adapt, man. That's all we want.
Yeah.
Just adapt. Be a
All
part
right.
of it.
There's my list.
I haven't watched
JP.
the press conference today, by the way. So, like, if anybody has anything to say on that, people in
Oh,
the
I
comments or
got
whatnot,
I don't watch
Funny.
anything.
I haven't watched it yet. So please just leave me alone. Don't say
Oh,
anything.
Oh, okay. So we're not supposed to say anything. I was going to say, I would. You're going to be excited. I'll tell you that. All right, JP.
Yeah,
give us
I'll
the
believe
list
it when
and
I
why,
see it.
reasons why.
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a good job, Parks, running down the Kirby Smart stuff. But when a guy wins 2 national titles, arguably a play away from a third, and then he, had a chance this year, just like you lose the SEC title game as an undefeated, you don't get in when there's 4 teams. That's just kind of part of it, as a weird year as it was. I think that's number one. Number two, I still have Brian Kelly because he didn't just walk. I know he walked into LSU with a lot of resources in a school that was, just coming off a national title not too long ago. They have everything you could possibly want, but him flipping this program and flipping this culture as quick as he has tells you something, right? Even after all the crap that's come out about him, and like as soon as he got on campus, he was just getting all the hate in the world. Well, kids want to play for him. That's why they're going there. Kids are staying there, right? Kids are transferring there. So like he is very good at what he does, and he's done it for a long time in Notre Dame. He's done it for a long, like national scale, top 5, top 10 teams for a long period of time at 2 different schools. So that's hard to do, right? Number 3, I have Sark. A lot of the reason I have Sark here, I could hear 3 and 4 being flipped. I really could. And it wouldn't be that hard to convince me, but I had to go a certain direction. And I think what Sark has done to really take the pressure that is Texas and is being the head coach there and then transition them into a winner. And, I kind of think they should have played for a national title this year. I was that high on them. But that's a lot of pressure to take in, and then to continue to recruit there and then make it a destination for kids to come play there. There's not a lot of big names that have left Texas. And like Malik Murphy probably wanted to stay, but like you just bring in too many talent. Like somebody's got to leave. Only one guy gets snaps on Saturdays, right? And he just continues to be a destination for people and be a part of a culture that has really accepted him, and he's accepted it and taken, all the pressure on the nose. So that's why I put him at 3. 4, Ryan Day is dealing with all the same kind of pressure, but he didn't have to develop the winner as much, right? But I think he is the best play caller, that a head coach that's a play caller in the country. The guy has had elite quarterbacks, I agree, but most of those elite quarterbacks didn't do anything in the NFL as much, right? Like you saw CJ Stroud light up the world this year. Obviously, the kid's talented, but the ability to scheme dudes open and just make studs out of 3 or 4 receivers for the past 4 years is uncanny. To get people open, to make sure things happen. Now, this year, you kind of look at it and he changed. He saw his team and he goes, hey, we got to play defense. The hire of Jim Knowles continually goes underrated. It's one of the best hires in the past 5, 6, 7 years of college football. That defense is electric. They're going to be a top 3 defense this next year. They're going to go back to a little bit of a run style. The guy's adapting with what he has, and he's doing it at elite level. Can you look at Kyle McCord and say it wasn't quite what you were looking for? You weren't really getting everything out of him that you maybe wanted to. You wanted to get the ball out on the edges a little bit more, but you weren't able to and stretch the field. So what? You still got him to that point, right? Like you lose one at the end of the year and it takes away, that's a 14 playoff though. Like you lose that one, you don't play for a Big Ten title. You don't go play for a national title most of the time. But they are that talented. So I have him at 4. And then I have Dabo. Reese, you did a great job at explaining this one, because there's, even with his inability to pick the portal and like really adapt and really understand it, there's not a lot of kids leaving Clemson either. Like the people like to play for him. The guy still wins, right? Even if they've had issues, he had to reset. He had 2 really good coordinators leave him, and he's still working, right? Whether you love him or you hate him. And I'm not the biggest Dabo fan ever, but I respect the hell out of a guy that's got 2 national titles and X amount of conference titles and just continues to win no matter what. Because Clemson with Dabo is better than a Clemson without him, because I don't know how big of a destination that becomes in the future if they're not in the SEC or in the Big Ten, or they're not having a chance to really grow, right? Like how much better does it get? Because they have resources, I guess, but they can't be that developed if the guy's not leaning into them. So it's a hell of a job. And that's my 5. I could hear Gundy. I could hear Lanning. That was really hard for me to keep him off. I just want to see it a couple more years. 2 years for him and DeBoer is just not enough for me. I need more. This body of work from these 5 is better. Now you can look at Sark at Washington and at USC, and maybe wasn't quite the same, but his ability to take that pressure, I think, was a lot more than what Lanning was dealing with at Oregon, in my opinion.
I think those are all great lists. I think we could probably make a collective. Obviously, Kirby at 1. I saw Brian Kelly on, I believe, Jake, was he on yours? I believe.
2 for me too.
So 3 of the 4 list. I forgot all about Brian Kelly at Notre Dame and kind of what he accomplished there. And that is a entirely different animal when it comes to recruiting, because you got the academic side of it almost makes it impossible for some of these athletes. Not a shot, but just the truth. Okay.
I got some honorable mentions.
I was going to say too, I feel like I need to finally acknowledge it.
Because we kind of went on different paths. Gundy came on here because of harder to win. How about these guys? Hard to win places. Now, one of them, mind you, isn't coaching there anymore, but you could probably had the hardest job out of all of them, and we're not really sure what's happening in that world. But first one, Dave Dorn at NC State. What that guy's done. Winning program, winning coach, bought into everything that they are at NC State. Have that one written down. And then I had Pat Fitzgerald. Like, I understand where we're at on this Pat Fitzgerald thing, but talk about a place that's hard to win. And you win 2 West titles, and you can, like, that's a program that should never win. Sorry, like straight blood out. They shouldn't win with the resources they have and the people.
Well, what about, I guess the criteria depends, and you guys can roll your eyes and say what you want. But if you're going to throw Pat Fitzgerald, and even Dave Dorn, I know he's only now.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if we're doing that part, hard to win.
No, I know. I'm saying now that 7 years in, similar to those 2, I mean, why can't Campbell be in an honorable mention?
He could.
Probably. I would. Is he still not a top 15 or 20 coaching college football, depending on your criteria?
We got to run that list down, because that's I feel like we'd get somewhere
That's
with
a
that.
list.
That's a long
I know,
list.
and it's a lot
I mean,
to think about in the heat of the
NFL
moment. But if you're thinking of like a guy who maximizes potential at, like you said, JP, and I'm not shying away from it. You look at Iowa State's history; there really isn't any
Yeah.
other than 3 or 4 years, and look what he's done the last 6 years. So
Quickly, Ferentz, Freeze, Norvell, Kiffin were 4 more that I had. Ferentz,
I want to
Kiffin.
say, because you said you argued mine a little bit. The reason I have DeBoer over Ryan Day and not Ryan Day on my top 5, and Ohio State fans might agree with me. I'm not really sure where they sit, and it's just like DeBoer's just done again a lot more with than what Ryan Day has. Like, I hate the silver platter term and I hate the third base term, but it's kind of true. I mean, you have DeBoer who started at an NAIA school and was playing in a national championship before. I mean, even Ryan Day was, if you want to say it that way. But I don't know. I think that I would be interested to see, and it will never happen because it's a fake comparison, but put Ryan Day in DeBoer's situation at Washington or even Fresno State. Is he still as an elite of a play caller as he is regarded as? Is that a fair question to ask?
Well, yeah, I think it's a fair question to ask anytime, but like, depends. I mean, it depends on what he goes with. Like, I just think he's that good.
He is, and he's great. And like those receivers at Ohio State were drafted highly and are all successful in the NFL for probably a reason. I mean, his staff and what he's been able to develop definitely helps. But like, I would just love to see what Kalen DeBoer could have do with even last year's team. That was a kick away from beating Georgia.
I think I will answer that question. I know JP didn't maybe give a straight answer, but I would say if Ryan Day was at Washington this year, yeah, I think they're just as good. I think you give him an upgrade at quarterback. I think you give him a serviceable comparison between Marvin Harrison Jr. and Rome Odunze. But I think, I think maybe even the quarterback upgrades enough to say a little even better for Ryan Day. So I'll say yes on that. That sure.
But a downgrade.
I don't know. Ohio State's defense was legit this year. I think that kind of went under the radar, but they were pretty good. But good questions. Good questions. Okay. Any closing thoughts on these? Any shots from the last beat? Reese, you're awfully quiet down there. You like everybody's list?
Lance Leipold.
He'd be an honorable
mention.
That's good.
Again,
That's good.
Lance Leipold.